Hello, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV, and today we're just going to look at taking apart a Hobie 16 ready for winter storage. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start off by preparing the mast. So firstly I'm just going to take the shock cord off one half of the trapeze. Done, and we're going to take the trapeze to the front of the mast. Just going to tuck that in there so it doesn't swing around. At this time, just going to tidy up the jib halyard. The main halyard is already done, so now I'm going to do the same with the front trapeze wire. So with the 16, because with the jib down it doesn't have any real tension in the rig, it means we don't need the trapeze wires to get the tension off the rig. So we would do this slightly differently with a Tiger or a boat which keeps its rig tension on all the time. So I'm just going to take these trapezes. We're going to make the mast tidy before we drop it. And what that will do is mean that it's not going to be a complete mess next time we put it up. Okay, so there we go. We've got all the trapeze wires now at the front of the mast, and then just going to go around the bottom of this horn cleat and just lock that in with the shock cord. Then I'm going to take the rope from the downhaul. You can do pretty much whatever you fancy. Just here there's a fair bit of improvising going on, and we're just going to go through all of the eyes of the trapeze wires there, and this is just under the banner of keeping it all tidy. And then I'll just take the shock cord off that horn cleat and put the end of the downhaul there, so we're keeping all of the trapeze wires pulled tight down the front of the mast. Now with the shock cord, I'm not going to use it all at this time, but I'm just going to go through the trapeze handles. Like this, going through all of them, just once around the mast there. And I'll tie that off on this same cleat. Again, we're just pulling it all tight so there's more chance that when we come to put it up, it's not going to be in a tangled mess. Okay, then next we're going to go to the rudders. So, going to take off the tiller extension. There we go. Going to leave the pin in the stick in the tiller extension end there. Very nice. And I'll put that on what will become our pile of bits. Then going to take the tiller connecting bar off, just popping that off. If you've got an older 16, then this will actually be held together with nuts and bolts, and then it's up to you if you'd rather store it easier by untying all the nuts and bolts, undoing them. That makes it a bit of a tidier pile at the end, or if you'd rather save the time, then you can just leave it all as one unit, the rudders and the connecting bar, so it's all connected. I'm just going to tape this together so that we know which boat it's all come from. I'll go once it's all apart, I'll label all the parts of this boat, but that's because we've got a lot of boats and it makes things easier next time. Alright, so next I'm going to take the rudders off. So if you've just done a lovely job in servicing your rudders, it might be more efficient to leave the rudder stock on and take the blade off, but because of how we're storing the boats, I'm going to take the whole lot off, which is going to be a lot better. And this ring at the bottom, we can see is already a bit mangled, so I'm just going to give that a little tap down. Sometimes the pliers do get used as a hammer. I'm going to have to admit that right now. And then we're just going to pull this. Oh, she's tight. Okay, so we're going to have to knock that out. So I'm taking our handy tool. This is all in the rudder servicing video, and we're going to try to never actually hit the rudder pin directly on the end because it's going to flatten it. Instead we'll use our special tool and we'll knock that upwards. Now hopefully this will come out a bit easier. There we go. So he's off, and we'll just pop that back in. Okay, I'm just going against what I just said. I'm actually going to use the hammer just to bash this back in. But what we're trying to do is make sure that nothing is going to get lost. And then this split ring, which is a bit of a mess now, it was a mess before, it's even more of a mess. I'm just going to squash that in there with the pliers, so if we don't happen to have a new one handy when we put this together, we can still use that one. So there we go, and we'll put this on our pile of bits like this, and then we'll repeat this process on the other side. Just throwing the pliers around. We'll try to do this reasonably quickly so that this video can all be in one kind of edit. Here we go. So just taking this ring out. This one we can keep nice. That's a nice ring, that. Love it. And then yeah, this one's pretty tight as well, so I'm going to take the special tool. Just going to bang that from underneath. So the other reason why I do this reasonably quickly is because I've actually got 6 Hobie 16s to do, and don't want it to take too long. Wow, this is really tight. So this has obviously recently been serviced, which is why it's so tight. And then I'm just going to take this out again with pliers like this, just giving it a wiggle from side to side as it's coming out, just to see if there is a spot where it comes out a bit easier. And there we are, just using the pliers as a hammer again. People would say, if you've got a hammer there, why don't you use the hammer? So we are using the hammer. Looking for the split ring that we've just lost. This is pretty standard to lose one, because it's probably just been blown off there. Yeah, so we've lost that. If you can spot this split ring, please do put its location in the comments below, and when I read that, I'll come and find it. All right, but that rudder pin is pretty tight, so you know that even without the ring in it, it's not going to fall out during the transit period. So now we're actually ready to drop the mast. So I'm going to recruit the help of one of the dudes here from Wild Wind. All I'm looking for is one person who is keen to help. Oh, I can see the accountant. I think the accountant is, oh, actually better still, if you give us a hand, just the 2 shakes. We've actually found Marco, who is responsible for the boats here. Just going to drop the mast This is kind of half in, it wouldn't go in all the way. All right, so dropping the mast, this is the two-person technique. I'm going to push the mast forwards. While I'm doing that, Marco's just going to take the forestay out. And then putting the clevis pin back into the chain plate again so we don't lose it. We're just trying to look after all of our parts as we go so we don't lose anything. And then Marco's just going to keep an eye on the base of the mast just to make sure that that doesn't jump out. I tried using the mast erecting pin, but for some reason it wouldn't go in on this particular boat. Yeah, just wouldn't go in. All right, so there we go. So there, we're done with Marco. Thanks very much. So we'll just take this out. Didn't work anyway. Take this one out as well. Here we can just inspect our mast pivot bearing. We can see it's getting pretty thin, so that will need replacing next time we come to put the boat together. Just take this over here. We don't want to lose any more bits in the grass. So the next thing we'll do is we'll start disconnecting and then taping up the rigging. Again, if we leave it all tidy, there is a much higher chance that everything is going to go up without any tangling or mess when we come to put this together before next season. So again, just popping the pin back in here, taking as much off the boat as possible because the hulls are the most cumbersome part to move around, so we want to take everything off there. Take the tape off the shroud fittings as well. All right, there we go. And then we can slide the cover down over that. So especially if you're taking the boat on a trailer, it's worth pulling the cover down over everything, and that will reduce the risk of losing any pins or rings from there. All right, so we'll just do the other side. Oh, it's just taking the tape off. We'll come around after we've finished, pick up all the bits of tape rather than having to walk around with pockets full of the stuff. There we go. Just take him out there. Lovely. And off he comes again. In we go. Easy. All right. So now again, just going to slip the strap, the cover over the chain plate there. All right. So now I'm going to go to work with some tape. So what we're going to do is take approximately every metre and a bit, or how much is a bit? About that much. What's that? 1.5 meters. Then I'm just going to take the tape, do a full wrap, 2 full wraps around everything, and then a wrap around the mast, 2 full wraps around the mast, and then we're just going to work our way down here, making sure we have got everything, just repeating this process, and that's going to keep everything tidy. So especially if you're taking the boat on a trailer, or you might be moving it around a few times, if your rigging isn't done up nicely, you're going to end up with a tangled mess, and what you don't want is a tangled mess. That's right. All right, so we're just going to bring the mast down here a bit so we can get hold of it a bit lower down. Okay, I think 2 more and we're done here. Just running this tight here. Okay, going around the mast. Oh, snapped. Go around again. Just have just enough tape here. So at the end, when we're coming to the bottom, we're going to use some of this trapeze elastic to tidy the shrouds up, and I'm just going to bring them round onto themselves. In fact, I'll tuck them up through the trapeze handle, and then we can take this shock cord around the mast, because the ends of the shrouds where the fittings are a bit heavier, so that's something that's more likely to come undone if we move the boat around. And then again, we'll just use this horn cleat to tie the shock cord off. There we are, lovely. And then we've got a few more bits here which we'll just wrap round, and then I'll just tie them off loosely just here. Very nice. And what we'll do later on to finish this off is we'll actually take a black bag and just put the black bag over all of this lot, and then wrap it with some parcel tape to really keep it as secure as possible. So there we are. So that's the mast done. So we'll pop that on the pile. There we go, pile of bits. Next, so if you've got, it is a good idea to store your catamaran indoors if it's at all possible, like in your garage or workshop, what else, commercial storage unit, or under a carport or something, just so that it's not out in the weather for the whole off season. So if you can store it complete like this, then that's great, but I'm going to take the boat apart completely. So it is a good idea, especially with a 16, to take your boat apart completely, perhaps at least once every 2 years, because if you don't, then what will happen is it will become very difficult for it ever to come apart again, because the corner castings end up seizing onto the pylons of the hulls, and your boat becomes one piece, which means if you were to ever want to take it apart, you would be in trouble there. So taking it apart once a year or once every 2 years is a very good idea. There we go. So we're just taking the tramp lacing off. Now that we've done that, I'm just gonna leave that attached to the corner casting there, so we will know where to find it when we come to assemble the boat next time. And there we go, something like that is what we're doing. All right, so then I'll do the other side, and this trampoline we're actually going to have to take to our sail maker, who's Thanos at OS3 Sails here in Greece, and he'll recondition the trampoline, and in fact there's a strong chance we're going to get some new ones made ready for next year, just as the trampolines start getting a bit tired. Like if they get a lot of sun, then the amount of problems become more frequent with small holes appearing or even big holes appearing. And if there's one thing you want on your boat, it's a nice trampoline. Okay, yeah, so this rope is a bit frayed, but we'll still just leave it on for now, and then we will change a lot of the ropes when we come to put the boat back together next season. So there we go, wrapping him up, popping him through, and there he is. Easy. Now we just need to do the tramp lacing in the middle. So if any of your knots are a bit tricky to untie, you can use a marlin spike, which is or if you haven't got a marlin spike, which is reasonably likely but you don't have one, you can use a screwdriver to get inside a knot. You can use a pair of pliers to help open the knot, anything at all like that. This one's been reasonably compliant. I have washed this before I started taking it apart, because what a sailmaker does not want is a salty trampoline in his sail loft, or a salty sail for that matter. So I'm just going to take the lacing out. There we go, it's coming out. Lovely day here in Vasiliki in start of October. I believe it's actually, yeah, it's October the 1st, 20 past 4 in the afternoon. It's a Monday and we're in our last week of customers, but we've declared that this boat is not going to be needed again this year. It's not a big Hobie 16 week, got 3 16s out today. So just pulling the trampoline lacing out, got the jib sheets out, just going to get them out of the way, chuck them off the boat. Here we go, lovely. Maybe we'll even, in the editing process, we might even speed this bit up, because there's no way around how long this takes if you're taking the trampoline off. Yeah, new trampoline for a Hobie 16 is a good way of really upgrading your boat. If you've got an old 16 like from the 80s or something, then I'll leave that on. Then getting a new tramp, in fact I'm going to leave this tied on to the front beam, because if we're getting a new trampoline we want to be able to find that bad boy there. I'll coil that up afterwards. Yeah, if you've got an older boat, then getting a new trampoline, new sails, new rudder blades would be the ultimate upgrade to turn your old boat into quite a fresh, new looking boat. In order, it just depends on what looks the most tired, because what you don't want is when you go sailing to be worried about going through your trampoline, because that is not fun. Okay, there is some sort of knot on here, some experimental knot time been going on. So these are the jib traveller ropes, taking those off, lovely. Just chucking it all out of the way for now, and we'll sort that once the trampoline's off. And actually here on our Hobie 16s, what we've done is we've put our sidebars on backwards so that the opening is at the back, because we were having problems with the trampoline pulling out from this corner, and because we've put them on backwards, what we've done is actually put an extra rope around the beam here, just so that we can pull it all tight, and it has seemed to work. This is the second year we've put these on backwards and it seems to be working quite well. I just have to untie this knot. This is the downside, having another knot to untie. Okay, untying this knot just here, and there we are, and there it is, done. We're going to leave this tied onto the front beam. How should we tie that on? Just with a simple knot like that. Okay, means we'll be able to find it again. We'll do the same this side. Yeah, changing the ropes on your boat as well, that is a nice way of giving them a facelift. And then the rudder blades, you may ask, when should you replace your rudder blades? If your rudders, even after servicing them, don't feel very good, take a look at the should I buy EPO 3 rudder blades video, and that will explain the different types of rudder blade you can get on a 16. Then you could decide if you want to spend the money on your boat making it handle nicer. Okay, so then taking the trampoline off, we're just going to pull it out of the front beam first. Easy, very nice. And then some rubbish in the pocket, that's nice. And then we'll pull it out of the back of the beam. Very good. Okay, we'll just pop that with the pile of bits. Going to take the back lacing strip out as well. Usually we'd leave it in, but this lacing strip is in a bit of a sorry state. Yeah, there you can see the rope is starting to show through. So these really do take a hiding here. There we go. And then we'll take the trampoline out of the front beam on the other side, just repeating the process there, and there we go. Just going to take this opportunity to check the camera. How are we doing? 26 minutes so far. Let's see if we can, yeah, it's going to take us a few more minutes yet. So we'll just tidy our ropes up that we're leaving on the front beam. So just going to coil everything up fairly tight. Fundamental things when taking your boat apart is leave it in such a way that you'll be able to find it. Don't put anything somewhere really clever, because if you put something somewhere clever, that is when you're less likely to find it. Put things in the most logical place, like almost put them in a place where you can't continue with the job until you have removed them. That means that definitely. Okay, so got the capsize right in line, chunky yellow, lots of knots in. Capsized perhaps a few times. Big gust just coming through there. Frills and spills out on the water. Oh, all right. We'll use a bit of tape to attach him. Then the jib sheets. Tying up these bad boys. There we go. Yeah, the right in line proved to be quite tricky to tie up, so I'm just going to tape that to the front beam. If we've got enough tape here. If we were leaving the boat assembled, then we just leave it all on the trampoline. They'd be quite happy there, but because we're taking it apart, we have to do these things. All right, so next we're going to take the bolts for the beams off. These are 17mm bolts. The plastic nut should just be finger tight. Yeah, so this one's finger tight. And then what we'd usually do with these is leave the nuts and bolts actually bolted through the back lacing strip of the trampoline, but of course we've taken that off, so we can't do that. Right, so I'm actually going to leave these just on the rudder for now, and then once we've got the beam off, I'll just pop these back into the beam. Again, we're putting as little stuff on the boat as possible, so we'll put these on the beam rather than leaving them with the boat, leaving them with the hull, sorry. Alright, so just having to wind this one out. This one's a little bit tighter. There we go. Alrighty. And then while we've got the tools out, we'll do the front beam as well. There we go, just winding him out. Some come out easy, some come out a bit tighter. Usually the tighter ones that are good, because that means your boat's probably a bit tighter. And of course, as we're taking the whole thing apart, it's a good opportunity to be able to have a look at it all and find out if there's any work that needs doing, like checking the rubber on the sidebars there. Replace that in the off season. That's a nice thing to do in your garage or workshop or commercial unit or shop or tennis club or wherever you happen to be doing the work on your boat. All right, so popping that down there, one more to go, and then we could just slip the beams off the hulls. Easy. Thing's just going to absolutely fly apart, because we take these boats apart every year, so that must mean that they're going to come apart easily. Alright, we're going to be again hitting the fast forward on the old video editing here a fair bit, because some of this probably isn't particularly exciting to watch. There we go, so that's all out. Put our tools away, put this with the rest of them, and now it is time for the hammer. All right, and what we're going to do to get it apart, foot on the hull, we're going to hit the corner casting about there repeatedly. Okay, there's one. Right, going for number two. Just take a look there. Wow, it's okay, yeah, it's coming. Some are easier than others. We'll just slow down a bit before it comes off. There we go. And now we're just going to pop this off here. Good workout as well. And we're going to pop this off here, try not to drop the sidebar. There we go, another one for the pile of bits. And now, before we forget, we'll just slip the bolts back in here. And you'd think it should be quite a straightforward procedure to repeat that process with the front beam. Let's hope so. Sometimes we do have to take some fairly extreme measures to get these apart, even after they've only been assembled for a year. And we put a lot of grease into these as well, so these just pull out the sidebars. There we go. So there we can see maybe it's worth us replacing some of that rubber grip over the winter, so then that'll be nice and fresh for next year. Oh, at this point, before we go any further, we're just going to take the bridle wires off the front. Here we go. So this will be extremely tight, so we're going to have to use pliers to do this. Here we go. So we do experience some fairly good questions here while we're in Sailing Holidays Beach Club and Health Spa. Yeah, as Tom said, are they that stiff that we have to use a mallet? The answer is clearly yes. They are stiff. If they were any looser, the boat would be incredibly flexy as you sail along. Alright, so again we're trying not to lose any bits, so we're going to tighten this up tight for the storage. There we go. And then we'll just coil this up at the bow. This is a special one in case anybody's wondering. Yes, we have got 3 chain plates on here. That's because the forestay was too short, so we had to take some measures there to lengthen it, and the most simple way we could do that is with an extra chain plate. We'll get some new rigging on that bad boy for next year. And here we go, do the same on this side, a bit easier because there's no rigging on there. There we go, lovely. All right, so let's get back to hitting the boat with a hammer. Just pop the pliers away, we're done with those now. All right, let's go. So, oh yeah, that's coming off easy. So when we're at this stage, because I haven't got anyone helping, I'm not going to take it apart completely. Instead I'll just make sure it's loosened up, so then we've still got a platform for when we're hitting this one. There we go. So now straddling the hull, lifting the beam off, and now we can lay this hull down. Nice. And then we'll lay this one down as well. And then maybe we'll be able to just pull this off, or we might just have to, yeah, we'll just have to give that a bit more of a tap. So I'll bring the boat back up, resting that on the floor this time. This is where another pair of hands would really come in handy, but we just don't want to damage the boat at all. All right, so there we go. That's all done. We'll just put our bolts back into the pylons of this one. Okay, so what's next, you may ask? Well, what we'll be doing is we'll be labelling all the parts that have come off the boat with labels, and then we're going to clean the hulls. You may have noticed the hulls have got a bit of a brown colour to them. That's because we leave our boats on moorings and they do pick up a bit of an oily residue from the water, so we'll actually do a video on how we're going to be cleaning those hulls. Okay, so thanks for watching. 38 minutes and 50 seconds. That's not bad at all for the Hobie 16 in bits. If you've made it all the way through, then congratulations. You are very dedicated to the cause. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks again to all the patrons of the channel for helping me to make these informative and fun videos. That's right, fun for sure.